Okay, everyone, welcome to another episode of Matt's Mindset Monday. I'm super excited about this one. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about leadership, and I'm going to introduce you to our guest here in a second. But as I was getting ready for this episode, I just hopped on and looked up the definition of leadership, and it's the action of leading a group of people or an organization towards a common goal. And when I first started preparing for this, I got to thinking about, what does that really mean? And of course, you all know I've done a bunch of John Maxwell training. And of course, we have the 5 levels of leadership, but then we also have styles of leadership. And this is what kind of brought me to the point of our guest today, who's one of my really good friends. We go back many, many years. Joe Welsh, who is the executive director of Friends of Sinners. And he's going to talk to you a little bit about being a quiet leader. But before we hop into that, if you think about the different styles of leadership, you have passionate leaders, you have inspirational leaders, you have assertive leaders, you have innovative leaders, and then you have the servant leader, which is something that I know that Joe is, and what I think really pours into what he would say is a quiet leader. So before we kind of do an introduction and get into the leadership part, Joe, tell us a little bit about who you are and your family and all that fun stuff.
Yeah. So my name is Joe Welsh. I'm the executive director of Friends of Sinners. My wife is Angel Welsh. She's a local radio DJ. So I used to be known as the executive director of Friends of Sinners. Now I'm known as Angel's husband. That's my claim to fame, but I have 4 kids. I have 3 stepsons, Parker, Braden, and Tucker, and I have a daughter, Charlotte, who is 6 years old. Boys are 18, 16, and 9. So we have our hands
busy at all, do you?
No. We have our hands. Well, I tell people all the time, I come to work to get a break. That's really true. Yeah, so that's kind of just a little bit about my family. Previously, I was the director of St. Benedict's from 2012 until around 2015 when I came to Friends of Sinners. And just in the community, I love serving. So I serve on the Ottoman Community Care Clinic board. I've served on the drug court board. I'm still a board member for St. Benedict's and a few other things that, I am super involved in the community. Any way I can help and serve is what I want to do and what I love to do. So, and outside of that, I'm a professional deer hunter. So there's
and he takes that designation seriously. I know. Now for some of our guests who are outside of the Owensboro area, tell them a little bit about your organization. It's something that I'm very passionate about as well. I think your organization does a ton of good. But for those who might not be familiar with Friends of Sinners, what do you all do? What's your purpose and your mission?
So Friends of Sinners was founded in 2009, and we are a Christ-centered, peer-driven community recovery program. So we are really similar to a treatment center, a rehabilitation program, but what we call ourselves is a discipleship program. So we focus on discipleship of men and women. And what that looks like is it's really one of the things we focus on that we strive to be the best at is relationships with our clients. So, you can teach people a million things. You can tell them all the information in the world, but the relationships seem to be where most people have success. When we come beside them, they really become my best friend, other staff members' best friends. They become part of our family. They come to my house. They go to my kids' birthday parties. Like, we really do life together. That's part, of discipleship, is really kind of walking together hand in hand with each person. So, right now we have 30 clients in our men's facility and 15 clients in our women's facility, and we've grown tremendously. And I can talk more about that. But something that we love and that we don't want to do is grow too big, because we lose the personal, intimate, relational side of things, because we believe that's where our success lays. So if we were to grow, and it is part of our plan to grow, but instead of growing inwardly in numbers of clients, we want to grow outwardly, meaning instead of having 100 clients in Owensboro, we would love to keep the numbers that we're at now and have a Friends of Sinners Evansville, Friends of Sinners Bowling Green, so that we don't lose the intimate personal relationships that we have with our clients.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. I was kind of briefly talking about the 5 levels of leadership earlier, and you have the positional leader where people follow you because of your title, and they have to. Then you have the permission-based leader where people follow you because they want to. Followed by production, which is they follow you because of what you've done for an organization. Then you get into people development, where you start to develop the people, and people follow you because of what you've done for them. And then ultimately the pinnacle, which is something that I really appreciate about your leadership and about Friends of Sinners, is you strive for the pinnacle leadership, meaning that people follow you because of who you are and what you represent. So how has that your journey in leadership kind of developed over time? Because if we go back, me and Joe go back to high school days, and they tell you some stuff we're not going to talk about on here that we didn't have the best upbringing, maybe. So how has your leadership journey developed over time, and what's that look like now?
Yeah, so I just, to be really honest, I'm not the greatest manager of people. So what I mean by that is I struggle with communication more than anything. I'm really quiet, and that's kind of the topic of this whole thing, is just being a quiet leader. So I'm not always the best. It's something that I have to be really intentional about staying on top of. So I don't command a group setting really well as far as my staff. Like, we have a staff meeting, and we have those things. I'm not the greatest at commanding the staff, but what I do, how I manage them, is individually, by one-on-one, and by evaluating, learning their gifts and their talents, and understanding what I'm good at and what I'm not, and really hiring and choosing people that complement my gifts in each role that I struggle with or that I'm not the best in. Finding those people with those gifts and allowing them to use those gifts to help the organization as a whole. So a few of my favorite quotes about leadership is, one of them is Harry Truman, and it says you can accomplish anything as long as you don't care who gets the credit. And I think that's one of the things that I really kind of I love getting credit. Don't get me wrong. I love to get a big trophy or win a game, but I really also, at the same time, I hate the spotlight. I hate to be in front of people or be seen. So I love to build my staff members up. I love an example of this would be Julius Maddox, and he worked for me for 5 years, and he has this amazing gift as a weightlifter, and he for years and years and years, I had to almost force him to leave Friends of Sinners and pursue his dreams, because I could see the potential in him. But the fear of leaving Friends of Sinners and leaving this comfort and leaving the security of Friends of Sinners was just overwhelming for him. So I almost had to push him out the door. And that's the same thing that I do with each of my staff members. I really try to build them up and build their careers up as much as I do my own. And one of the other things, I think, as far as how I've grown, is I used to be, it's a quote that says, management is doing things right, but leadership is doing the right things. And so I do things right. Just everything's got to be done. So I make sure everything gets done. And I'm a really anxious person. I worry a lot. So I'm just focused on getting the task done over and over and over, no matter what. And how I've grown is just understanding that that's not really leadership. Leadership is understanding what the right things to get done are, rather than just getting things done.
Yeah, 100%. What I heard you say that's really impactful to me, and what, in my opinion, makes you a great leader, is it's the sum of the collective whole, not just putting the spotlight on yourself. which is, I think, something that's crucial for leadership is you have to move the dial towards, of the whole organization, not just of your own individual career, which I think is something that makes you really successful. Is you're really good at putting people in their genius seat, meaning that they're in alignment with what their strengths are, and not forcing somebody to change, to adapt to what you need out of the organization.
Yeah, it's kind of quiet leadership is definitely a collaboration. It's a collaboration of a bunch of talented people that make me look good. And I think my quietness or me being an introvert, it really gives them an opportunity to share and participate in the process and to feel to exchange ideas and bring ideas that are sometimes really great ideas that and they feel safe and they feel like those ideas are heard, rather than me just leading and me casting all the vision, and I don't want to hear what you all have to say. So
yeah, it goes back to that collective whole again. I love that. So, me, I'm a huge mindset guy, and we got to talk a little bit about mindset before we jump into the leadership portion. So tell me how mindset has impacted the growth of your leadership.
When you all sent me that question, I really didn't understand the question a whole lot, but one of the things I think about mindset is one of the things I think is the top of my priority list is first is integrity and character. So probably above anything else, integrity and character is something that is a must at Friends of Sinners for me and any of my staff members. Sorry, I got a gnat flying around. So not only for us individually, but it's almost like they trust me that I always have their back, that I'm always going to support when they fail, when they succeed. When they fail, I'm going to have their back and I'm going to be there to support them and accept some of that responsibility. And when they succeed, I'm not going to steal that from them either. So that's one of the big things. And then I think with mindset is one of the things that recently, within the last 5 years, is just my mindset has changed in that I just believing that anything is possible, that these dreams, when we sit down and we have a strategic planning meeting and we have these crazy ideas that are almost for me as an introvert, scare me to death. Like, these ideas scare me to death. Let's raise $1 million and build a new facility scares me to death. But just opening those doors and opening those conversations, I've really seen that it's really, when the mindset is just day after day, do what you have to do day after day, those huge tasks, those huge mountains that you think are impossible actually become attainable, and we accomplish them. So I've really grown in that area of just dreaming big and not letting fear stop me from dreaming and really pursuing those dreams.
I love that, because you got to believe it before you can achieve it. And, one thing that I know has changed for me personally is when I used to hear those big, scary goals, my first mindset used to go to why I can't achieve something. And now instead, and the mind shift I've had is it goes to how. So it's not why not anymore. It's just how. No matter how big it is, I want to know, how can we do it? I don't ever think anything can't be done. It sounds like you're kind of in the same boat.
Yep.
What is something that you wish you would have known before you really started your growth / leadership journey? Like, you could go back and start it all over again from St. Benedict's even. What was something you wish you could have told yourself?
Mm-hmm. That I had the ability to do any of these things, that it's just a matter of asking. So especially in the fundraising world, A lot of things that weren't accomplished early in my career were just out of fear of asking. So I wish I would have known that the community is there. They're willing to serve. They're willing to help. That we live in a community where people are dying to help and come together for all kinds of different causes. But the ask was so scary. For whatever reason, the worst that they can tell you is no. But for whatever reason, with fundraising, and not just for me and my personality, but for a majority of fundraisers, asking is the hardest thing. And I wish I would have known that if you just ask, it's provided. There's never been a time, and I've been doing this for 10 years, and I can't remember ever a time that I haven't accomplished anything that I've asked for that was that was a noble cause or that was needed service for the people of Owensboro. So I wish I would have known that, just like we talked about a few minutes ago, that these dreams that I was so scared of, I wish I would have known that these things are obtainable. It's not, these things aren't out of touch, that this is stuff that happens somewhere else or with another leader or with another organization is doing these things. And this is just little old St. Benedict's or little old Friends of Sinners, because both of those organizations that I started with and where I'm at now started just kind of overnight. We just started overnight in a building and with nothing, one staff member at St. Benedict's, and at Friends of Sinners the same way. We started overnight with one little house on Clay Street and one staff member and one client. And I wish in the beginning I would have known that what we're experiencing now at St. Benedict's and Friends of Sinners was obtainable and was achievable, and that it didn't take us 10 years to get here because we drug our feet.
Yeah, and I think it's natural. Like all of us as just humans in general have a fear of rejection. I think that's a natural tendency that you have to condition your mind to overcome. And one thing that I always tell myself just is no means next. So I'm always focused on that so that I don't get caught up on the no's. No just means I'm that much closer to a yes. And I think that, in that situation with what you build, it's momentum over time and starting to see what you can accomplish. And then over time, you recognize that there is so many great people that are out there willing to help and willing to contribute, so that those big dreams that seem scary when you're in that very first meeting, as you get into the process and you start to see where the momentum's building and people are giving and things like that, I could imagine how each day, each week, each month, it just gets easier and easier and easier. And now that you know that, it's probably that next big dream isn't as scary.
Yeah. And one of the other things I'll add that I wish I would have known is that an executive director's role isn't everything under this umbrella. So I was kind of thrown into the fire and I didn't have staff members. So my role as executive director was to be the executive director, to be in charge of marketing, to be in charge of fundraising, to be in charge of facilities, to be in charge of managing staff, to be in charge of managing clients, to be in charge of grants, to be in charge of speaking events, to be in charge of finding volunteers, all of those things that, I was thrown into the fire. And when I transitioned from St. Benedict's to Friends of Sinners, I was kind of used to that. So I continued to do all those things. And I had this, when I started thinking about hiring a marketing fundraiser type person, the fear of, well, how am I going to pay for it? Well, I wish I would have known that position is so valuable that literally since I've hired that position, the development director, our income has went up 200% in 3 years. So, and it was for 2 years, I went back and forth on, can I do this? What if it doesn't work? And, that position, so those positions that are underneath me as the executive director, identifying what those positions are and the value, like they always pay for themselves. And I didn't know that in the beginning.
Tenfold. I mean, yes. I obviously talk to in my world, it's real estate agents typically, but I speak to a lot of business owners, and that's the number one thing when it comes to a growing business. they're afraid to make the next hire out of, hey, you know, the responsibility that comes from the income and things like that. But when you're hiring correctly and you're maximizing people's strengths and filling positions, that should lead to, tenfold growth, if you're putting people in the right position. Because when you were naming all those different things you did, it's difference between being the jack of all trades and the master of none, versus really getting granular and focus on what we do best, and then fill the gaps with what we don't do good with talented people. And it goes back to something that we've talked about in the past, is making sure that you surround yourself with talent and having people that can help your organizational growth.
Yep.
So as a quiet leader, what would you say a quiet leader does differently than what most people might traditionally think of a leader?
The first thing I think is, with most quiet leaders, I'm not sure that all quiet leaders, but I know this is true in my life, is they check their ego at the door. So typically with a quiet leader, their egos are left at the door when they walk in, but they earn the trust and the respect of their team, because it's like this lateral versus like a hierarchical thinking. So the quiet leader typically, in my experience, wouldn't ask their employee to do anything that they wouldn't do. So that's one of the biggest things I think or the biggest compliments that I've got as a quiet leader. Like early on in my career as a quiet leader, I thought I'm not a good leader because I'm not real vocal. I'm not inspiring people with my voice. But as I left St. Benedict's, I had a few people who worked for me who really kind of inspired me through their letters or their texts, and just were able to communicate how much I inspired and influenced them by leading quietly, that by leading with my actions, by sweeping the floor, by taking out the trash, by doing the things that a leader doesn't typically do. I was inspiring my employees that at that time, and that I didn't have to. What it did for me is that it just encouraged me that I didn't have to be this super vocal, super outgoing, charismatic leader to be successful. That my employees trusted me and followed me and were empowered by me through my quietness, through me not saying something. And something else that they said that made a lot of sense to me is, they said, when I did speak, they listened. When I did speak, they knew it was important. When I did speak, it was impactful, because I wasn't just speaking about everything or addressing everything or micromanaging everything. So they knew when I had something to say that it was important, that this really needed to be addressed, or this really needed to be corrected, or this really was important to me, because if it wasn't, I wouldn't be speaking, basically.
Yeah, I love that. And you did it through relationships and influence, and it's more, influence is more than just the the go get them motivating type. Because I think that there's a time and a place for that, but I don't think that in my personal opinion, that is limited in how long that impact lasts, versus earning the trust and respect is something you said, which is a relational and influential that can last beyond. And I was sitting here listening to you tell that, and I was thinking about the game last night, the Rams and 49ers game, and Aaron Donaldson was kind of on the sidelines, and one thing they talked about, you could see he pulled the whole defense together and was rallying them at the end of the game. And that's one thing the commentator said, is that he's not the very outspoken leader of the defense. He usually leads through his play on the field, but in that moment, he was able to rally the troops. And then that made that much more of an impact to him, because it's like, oh, he's speaking up. This is serious. Let's dial in and let's go. And then obviously you saw the result of that game. So I think you're onto something. I think it works.
Yeah. And just one more thing to add to that, I think the ability to stay calm under pressure or in crisis. So when go wrong, when things seem like they're falling apart, or when there's this huge emergency, like the quiet leader typically stays calm and out, whether that's I don't think that's necessarily like something that I've learned or been able to build as a talent. It's just my personality. Like, so instead of overreacting or flipping out because something is, the kitchen's on fire, like we're able to stay calm. And I think that kind of influences the employees or the clients also, that, okay, Joe's calm. Joe's calm. We don't have to freak out. We don't have to lose everything. This is going to be all right. We're gonna recover. There's a plan. There's a solution to this crisis.
Yeah, and they're modeling the behavior of their leader. So as they see where internally, or even externally, sometimes they could be really freaking out and not knowing. When they see that calming presence, it carries over to them as well. And then I think that helps build confidence. It's like, oh, okay, well, if Joe isn't freaking out, then maybe I don't need to be freaking out as much.
Yep.
Yeah. So how much time do you spend, observing your staff, and how important is that in terms of your leadership style?
It's very, very important. So I think as a quiet leader, as an introverted leader, like in order for this to be successful, I really need a team of stars around me. Like a team of stars, a team of super talented people are best served by a quiet leader. They're able to use their gifts and talents and not their leader not feel threatened, or their leader listen to take advantage of their gifts and talents. So I think it's really important for me to evaluate and watch and listen to make sure I got the right people in the right place, because like I said, quiet leadership is a collaboration. And if there's a weak link, then things can go south really fast with the quiet leader, especially. And the hardest part of that for me is speaking up. So a lot of times I'll watch and I'll watch and I'll watch, and my personality is to give people grace and to allow them to mess up over and over and over. And a lot of times that puts me in a bad position. I let things go too long instead of speaking up immediately. So I definitely watch, evaluate those things, but where I fell at is I probably don't address those things soon enough. I don't correct them soon enough, and that's sometimes it's harder to correct the longer you let it go on.
Yeah, and I think there's a fine line there. So for me, like my natural personality type is when I'm leading an organization, and I'll allow people to, like you said, to kind of fail forward, if you will. It's hard for me to not just want to go in and save the day, like in terms of like I just want to go in and help. But I think it's important that we allow people to develop. And in order to develop, they need to learn. And the way to learn is to allow people to make mistakes. So I'm kind of opposite of you in that, and that I typically want to dive right in and fix things, if you will. And I think it's important that we have that working balance of, like you said, you don't let it go too long, but you also don't jump right in and just save the day right away.
When I say fail, I'm not really talking about at tasks necessarily. I think maybe what I'm speaking into maybe is behaviors.
Yes. Yeah.
Meaning time wasted, playing on your phone, not running errands when you're supposed to be at work. Like I give my staff a lot of freedom, a lot of leeway, like because I trust them, because we're a family, because we're a team. They know those things, and I get taken advantage of a lot with that. But it's those behaviors that I recognize. A lot of times before I address them, I've already developed a resentment. I've already developed this, I'm not sure this person's going to work. And I don't think that's fair to the employee, because to the staff member, because it is my job to address those things, and I let them go on so long out of fear of confrontation, out of fear of upsetting them or hurting their feelings. And so that's kind of like a culture thing, and that's something that I've really been working on in the past few years, is just this culture of our office environment, our work culture. There's a lot of downtime, there's a lot of free time, there's a lot of flexibility, and those things can get out of control really fast if I don't speak up, if I don't address them. So I struggle with that a lot, but I'm definitely watching and evaluating those things in my head. Probably nobody else in the world knows, but I definitely think, when I think about it, I'm like, all right, these are my rock stars, and I could do it. I could replace these people easily. So.
And this isn't something that we prepared for before the meeting, but I'm so glad you brought this up. In my mind, a leader's number one job at all times is to protect the culture of their company. And you kind of touched base on that. Do you care to expand on why culture is so important to you?
Yeah. So coming into Friends of Sinners, it's kind of unique in that every person that worked here for so long were best friends. We go to church together. We went through treatment together. It's just kind of this family. We're best friends. All the people that worked here are best friends. And with that, the culture has kind of turned into like, we're just all sitting around, hanging out, not really, we accomplish the task at hand. We do what we have to do today, but we don't grow. We don't get better in any area. We don't improve on anything. So the culture we were just kind of at this line where we were just flat and nothing was getting better, because the culture was we just all hang out. Let's go work out together. Let's go out to eat, let's just hang out all day. And that environment is not really inspiring to me or any other staff member. So that's contagious. And when a new person would come in, they would fall right into that. They see everybody else doing that. So now I'm looking for them, and they're gone doing the same things that everybody else has been doing. So it's been something that's been really, really hard to correct. And I'm still working on correcting it. Part of me correcting that whole culture is our new facility. We're in these 3 old houses on Clay Street, and this culture, how things are, how the offices are, they're not really set up strategically. They're not set up for a good work environment. And so part of our new facility plan was to be more professional, to offer a better service for our clients, and for me to change the culture of our work environment, our office environment.
How much do you think the visual representation first, when somebody first walks in, plays a part of that culture? Is that something that you're trying to change with the new building, or like, what do you mean by environment?
Absolutely. So we are holding our clients to this standard way up here. We have the bar set for them right here, that their room's clean, that they follow directions, that they follow all these rules, and everything's in order. And in this environment that we have, it's the staff needs to be the first that needs to reach that bar and be setting that example. And I do think for the growth of Friends of Sinners, it's right now. In the past, it's always just kind of been like a local ministry that, Bob, who goes to church with a guy I know, sends his son here, and they walk in and, well, Bob said it was good, so it's good. But I don't think if somebody who knew nothing about us walked in and saw the facility or saw what was going on, that they would be like, man, I feel really good about leaving my son here for treatment, because it's kind of, it really is just this. I feel like our facilities and our work culture is still in its infancy. And so those are the things I'm trying to change, because my long-term goal is to reproduce Friends of Sinners in Evansville or Bowling Green or wherever. But in order to do that, I have to get Friends of Sinners Owensboro into the place that is where it no longer needs me, where it can function without me, where it is, there's nothing else for me to accomplish in Owensboro. That's kind of my goal. So with a mother or father coming in, I think the appearance is really important. It comforts them to see that we're organized, that we have structure. So for example, a new guy comes in today. The process of a new guy coming in today may be different tomorrow than it was today, because so many people are doing different things for me. So my plan is to really kind of to have a flow chart, and to have an intake director, and people, all of my staff members have their role and they play their role, so that everything every day that we do is the same over and over and over, and that we don't have any breakdowns. And then also with the client, when the client comes in, he sees us scrambling around, or staff members scrambling around, or that the paperwork that he needs to do isn't a big deal. Oh, don't worry about it, we'll get to it later. It kind of sets the tone. That first hour, that first day, that first week sets the tone of what we expect from a client and the standard. And so when things are real loose, or when we're real relaxed about things, which we are, and we have been, and we will be in some ways, it kind of sets the tone for them that, hey, we can just hang out too, or we can be relaxed. And that's not the message that I want to send to them, obviously. So, there's a lot of great things about we've been really, really successful the way that we are right now, but we could double, triple, quadruple that success if I did my job better.
Yeah, I get it. As somebody who's expanded business across towns and now even states, standardization is the key to expansion, without a doubt. Because when you get into new areas, if you don't have those standards that's set, then everybody does something slightly different and things get missed. So totally understand where you're coming from there. The next question I was going to ask you, and I'm actually going to change it a little bit. It was, when's the last time you had a hard time being a leader? But one thing that I've kind of recognized through this is what makes you a powerful leader is you're uniquely you. Like, who you are and you lead that way. And it's almost like, in a good way, you're unapologetic about, hey, I'm a quiet guy and I'm going to lead in this direction. What led you to that self-confidence to be able to be who you are? Because I think that's the most effective leader, is when you are uniquely who you are.
Well, honestly, I don't know that everyone knows my story, but I've made a lot of mistakes in my life, and changed my life. And one of the things that happened in that process was that every weakness that I had, that I thought was a weakness, or I considered a weakness, has now became a strength. Every failure that I've ever experienced, those experiences now are used for good. And so just being confident in who I am, I think, has come from my relationship with God and my faith, and also the success that I've had professionally, like just being transparent. And I have more confidence in saying I messed up than I am when I say I succeeded. Like, for whatever reason, that's just my personality. Like, I would never walk in a room and say, like, well, I won today, I really did good on this test, or I really did good at this, and look what I did. But I love walking in a room and saying, man, I messed up. This is where I failed, and this is where I failed. And I think I'm just more confident saying those things, but I also think it's just part of my leadership, in that I want the people I work with day in and day out, the biggest part of their recovery is being vulnerable and transparent when they fail, like learning how to be accountable to yourself and to others. So I love holding myself accountable. Obviously, today it's a lot easier because it's really small stuff. It's not like I'm out robbing a bank and then I'm going to go say I robbed a bank today, but it's really small stuff. So, I've learned that those things are just a part of life, and there's power in confessing those things. There's power in telling on yourself. You,
It makes you relatable. I mean,
yeah,
I think to just show you're not perfect,
yeah, that part. And I don't think I plan on that part, or like I plan on, well, I want to be relatable. I think it's more of, it's just how we grow, how I grow individually. Like, I can't work on this thing if I keep this to myself. Like, if I'm continually failing at something, like, I want help. I want to correct that. And so the best way for me to start to correct that is by telling others, maybe not everybody in the world, but there may be a specific person that I know that struggle with this, or that is really good at this. And like, hey, I'm struggling with this. I don't know how to keep, it may be like a staffing issue or whatever. Like, my staff's out of control again. Like, where how are you failing? Well, how I typically fail is I don't speak. Like, I don't address things. I put it off, or I'm fear that I've done it so long. And it's almost in my world, in the recovery world, you are rewarded for making mistakes and holding yourself accountable. So it's like you're holding yourself accountable, like you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. So if I didn't speak about my failures, I would be it would be a disservice to myself. And that's kind of the thing. So, it's not just about being relatable or letting other people know that it's okay to fail. It really is about me. Selfishly, it's about that I don't want to do a disservice to myself. I don't want to keep failing in this area. So I'm going to talk about it. I want to be better. I want
you
people
put
to
it
know.
out to the world, and
Yeah.
then in turn, it's going to kind of force change, if you will, because now everybody knows.
Yeah, now everybody knows. So,
Mhm.
so that inspires me or encourages me or forces me to get better. Like, talking about, I don't believe, well, I'm not vocal enough. Now everybody knows I better start speaking up.
Yeah. I'm making notes here. I'm gonna be checking in with you and say, hey, you've been addressing things lately.
Yep.
Well, hey, we got just a couple minutes left, and there's so much more I could dive into with you. I think it's been a fantastic episode. What would you like our audience to take away from this session? If there was just one thing that you could, whether it be advice or something to learn from, or just in general, like leadership, what would you have them take away?
Well, that, there's not a one size fits all leader. Just like you said in the beginning, and you went through all the 5 types of leaders, John Maxwell, the manner of leader the leader of your organization, it's all situational. Like, so a team of stars, like, if I have a team of all stars, they may be best served working under a quiet or introverted leader who respects their ideas, who's willing to let them shine. But if you have a team of passive people who prefer to be told what to do, they'll find an introvert to be frustrating, uninspiring, and they won't respond to a quiet leader. But those passive people, they may respond to a hot shot who talks a good game, who dominates the room, who loves the spotlight, and they may even worship that guy, right? So that there's no one size fits all leader. And I think it's really important for the leader of whatever organization, business, whatever you're leading, that you understand which type of leader you are, so that when you build your team, or when you have the opportunity to expand your team or replace the team member, that you're looking for the people that complement who you are as a leader. Because it's really important. If I, as a leader, went and found a bunch of passive people, I'm never going to inspire them. They're never going to thrive under me, because they need to be told what to do. They need to be inspired by this, just hot shot leader who can lead anything and everything. But when I'm looking for people to hire or to be a part of my team, I'm looking for people who are confident, who are really good, who are really talented, not only because like they may be best at the job because they're so talented, but because those people thrive under my leadership.
I love that. And that's super powerful. You got to know yourself first, and pour into yourself before you can pour into others is something that I learned along the way as well. And I think that's huge, huge, huge. And then the other last thing, just a kind of finishing note, are we allowed to announce what we were talking about earlier with y'all's new facility and all of that? Can we talk about that?
Sure.
Yeah. So you guys just got a brand new facility, right? So that's exciting. We were kind of talking about it before we went on the air. You want to let everybody know what that is and kind of what your plans are for it?
Yeah. So we, in June of last year, we bought the old Arc of Owensboro facility. It's on the corner of 8th and Jackson Street. It's an old school building. It's on like a 2-acre lot. It's total like 16,000 square feet. So, we're going from like 6,000 square feet and 3 old small houses to 16,000 square feet. And the goal with that is not to increase the number of clients we serve, but to improve the service that we offer our clients, to be more professional, to be able to offer more services, to just establish Friends of Centers in our community in a more professional light. And it's just been a long time coming. These houses are residential. So I know realtors know about residential and commercial, and 50 guys for 12, 13 years in residential houses have taken a toll. So although they serve their purpose well and they still serve their purpose well, things just kind of fall apart. It's not built to hold 30, 40 guys. A house isn't built to withstand that over time. So the old school, our new facility is more commercial in that it's concrete and brick, and it's just going to hold up to what we do, and it's going to give us the space to do so much more. It's going to, with almost 20,000 square foot, now we can start to dream again, and we can start to add services. We can start to add projects. We can, there's the possibilities are endless. So I'm super excited about that, about our new facility and the looks and all that stuff, but most importantly about what that's going to mean for our clients, and two, what that's going to mean for the culture of our office and our employees, and being able to change that culture and address those issues, and really, be proud of our organization. We have a great reputation. We've literally in the last 5 years, probably our profit year to year has grown 200% since I hired the development director. But on top of that, the marketing has grown 200% too. So we're really respected. We're really known in the community, the judges, the courts, the businesses, everyone. And it's almost embarrassing to bring them to our office or to our facility, just because, we're grateful for this. This is what God's gave us, but it's time for us to move on and be proud of our facility, and be able to invite you all in, to be able to the clients to take pride in where they're at. And I think that there's a few parts of that. These houses kind of have a homey feel, and I think we love that. Like, we love it to be personal, intimate, and have a homey feel. And so we don't want to lose that moving to our new facility. So we'll work on some of that too. But it also has this kind of rinky-dink feel too, also for our clients. So I'm not sure that when they walk in the door, they're super confident that we know what we're doing, just because of the way, the facility looks, or the way things operate, and we operate the best we can, and the way that we have to right now. But those are the goals, moving to our new facility, to be more professional, to offer a better service for our clients, and then to change the culture of Friends of Centers for our clients and our staff.
I absolutely love it. And I'm super excited for you all as well. And I know that, I know the service you provide to your clients and the community. And I think you're so deserving of having that facility. And I know under your leadership, that culture will continue to develop and you guys will hit new heights. So thank you so much for jumping on with us. I took tons of notes as we were going through. I know everybody else did. So I appreciate your time. Thank you for the lessons on leadership. Everybody stay tuned. If you want to reach out to Friends of Sinners, that I know that they're always willing to help and looking for other ways to support as well. So be sure to give Joe a shout and check out their new facility when it's ready.
Yep. Thank y'all.
Thanks. Have a good day.
See ya.
Yeah.